listening to Peterborough's community radio, Salam Radio. Salam Radio. 106.2 FM.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Keep Women Talking, a show from Peterborough Women's Aid. My name is Mandy and I'm your host today, and I am joined by my co-host Sue. How are you, Sue?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. On today's show, we are talking about women's rights. Ooh.
It's one of those subjects.
It is.
It?
So we've got loads of interesting facts and stuff that we're going to be talking about, and we'd really value your opinion once we start talking about the rights of women over the years. So last time we were on air, we were talking about fundraising, and I said that I am going to be running, well, I am going to run it, try and run it, the Great Eastern Run, yeah, which is half marathon. So I did it last year to raise money for Peterborough Women's Aid, and I'm doing it again this year to raise some more money, but I'm doing it kind of, this is a bit like for fun. So today, our question of the day is, what should I be dressed up as?
Yes, because last year you had a big pair of butterfly wings, which is obviously one of our emblems that we used, didn't you? And you had balloons coming off you. But this year you're going all out, aren't you?
I'm going full fancy dress. So the feeling from my family is Tinky Winky, the Teletubby.
Oh, interesting. Very warm, though. I would
very
imagine.
warm. Yeah. So I'm open to suggestions. So what do you think I should dress up as for the Great Eastern Run? And then we'll...
I'm excited to see what suggestions
what people
we get.
And I think we'll just go with the most fun, and the one that's going to raise the most money. That's what we need.
Definitely.
As much money as we possibly can raise.
So, Mandy, what's been going on the last 2 weeks at Peterborough Women's
The
Aid?
last 2 weeks, we say this every time, but we are super, super busy. So
It just seems non-stop.
it is non-stop.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. I've been doing some like media stuff. So I've been on Greatest Hits Radio, and that was to talk about the government's pledge to halve domestic abuse in the next 10 years, or violence against women and girls in the next 10 years. So they wanted to talk to me about how do we think the government is doing.
And what was your response, Mandy? Because I can imagine what my response would be.
My response was, it's great that they've made that pledge, that they want to halve violence against women and girls. However, frontline services such as Peterborough Women's Aid aren't really seeing that. We talked last time about the Dahlia project, the Home Office not funding that again.
Yes.
So we've had to go out and find our own money. We've had various other pots of money that aren't continuing at the end of March. So...
this is something we've talked about before, is this ongoing battle, isn't it, to be able to get funds to continue to do the work that we do.
It's just an ongoing battle, and there was something in the press, in the Peterborough Telegraph recently, said that Peterborough are investing £770,000 in domestic abuse services this year over the next 5 years or something, and everyone was very excited. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is amazing, 770,000." But
there's a big but.
What I made the
there?
point was, is that that's not new money. So the money has always been there, like to run the refuges, to run outreach services, to provide housing. But what we're seeing is a massive increase in victims coming forward, but we're getting the same amount of money. So
it makes it so hard, doesn't it, to continue those services?
It confuses me. How are we going to halve violence against women and girls when we're seeing more and more victims coming forward, but no more money to support those victims?
More victims are coming forward, Mandy. Do you think it's because it's happening more, or do you think it's just because people are becoming it's becoming a less taboo topic, or is it because people are becoming more aware of services like ours?
I think it's the last one, and I think organisations like ours have evolved so much that we understand the needs of the community. So we have, to give an example, before we opened the Dahlia project, which supports South Asian victims of abuse, about 8% of our referrals were South Asian women.
Right.
since we've opened the Dahlia, we're now looking at nearly 29% of our referrals are from the South Asian community.
Wow, that's a massive jump.
So people are coming forward because we've tailored our services to the needs of Peterborough. And this is why it's so disappointing, like that projects like the Dahlia, the Home Office decides not to invest in any further, because these are the ones that are properly saving lives.
And that's the same, I think, because we have the Lithuanian project as well, which obviously supports Lithuanian women within the community. And I believe we've got the same sort of difficulties with that. And there are other sectors within the Peterborough community, because we are such a multicultural city, that support and that tailored support isn't necessarily there. And if we haven't got the funds to continue that or to start new projects, there's big clumps within that community that are getting lost.
Yeah. And it's really frustrating, and we've really started the show on a right negative, haven't we?
I know, we've gone off at a complete
Off on a tangent. But this is why organisations, charities like ours are so important, because we're not going to give up. We are going to help as many victims of abuse as we possibly can. And you know, if I have to dress up as a Teletubby and run 13 miles, and that's what I'll do, you know. And anyone else who wants to dress up as a Teletubby and run with me, please get in touch.
You need to find 4 friends.
Okay.
So that you can
right, here's the test.
There is 5 Teletubbies.
No, there's 4.
Sorry, 3
right,
friends.
come on, Sue, name the Teletubbies.
Oh, Tinky Winky.
Yep.
Dipsy.
Yep.
Oh, now I'm stuck. Lala.
Yep.
Po.
And then there was the baby that came out, wasn't there? At the end.
Yeah, the sunshine baby.
Woo, at the end. Yeah. Okay, so I actually need 3 people.
I'm not one of those,
to
I hasten to add.
Run the Great Eastern dressed as a Teletubby. I do Bagsy Tinky Winky though, because she's my favourite.
There'll be other suggestions coming through which may beat Tinky Winky.
Okay, we're asking for them, I haven't read out the number of rights. So if you want to call us and get involved in our discussion, we're talking about women's rights. It's 01733 602 133. And if you want to text us, you can. It's 074 119 1062, or you can comment on our Facebook, YouTube, X or Twitch. What should I dress up as for the Great Eastern Run to raise maximum amounts of cash?
Anyway, getting back to what we've been doing, talking about what's been going on at Peterborough Women's Aid for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we also were on Look East, on Look East Online. They did an article about our 50 years, and we're trying to raise 50,000. So that's really good. We've had our first business who have committed to doing 2 fundraising events.
Wow.
Cartwright King solicitors, they are going to do a bake sale and a plant sale. So that's going to be on our social. So people watch out to go to that. And we've eventually got our charity. So you know the charity pots that you see on a
the little
like a counter. Yeah.
Pot things, can't speak.
Yeah.
The shaky pot things.
Yeah, that you just go into a shop and they're like, do you want to put your change in the pot? So we've now got to be going around local businesses, local to us. So we're kind of Cromwell Road, Dogsthorpe area, and asking if they will put a charity pot on their counter. And the plan is,
if you own a business,
yes,
get in touch. We will put one of our pots in your business.
Yeah, and not only will we put a pot in your business, we will advertise your business on our Facebook page and on our TikTok. So we already have one business that is committed to this, and we're looking for loads more. We have 50 charity pots to put in your business. We have over 3,500 followers on Facebook, so we could advertise your business for you. And all you need to do is take a charity pot. I mean, that is a no-brainer, isn't it?
Sounds easy to me.
So if you own a business, please get in touch and we will come and see you and do some promo work.
Yeah. Or if you want to hold an event and raise some money for us, please just get in touch.
Yes. And then the last thing to talk about is that we have been doing an awful lot of work in secondary schools, kind of prevention awareness work. So I've been going into Hinchinbrook School, which is in Huntingdon, and working with all of the year 10s. And Sue, you're going into Hampton Gardens?
Yes.
Gardens, and to do some work. So Sue, tell us a little bit about the work that we're doing.
So this is really important, because what we've found is that there's very few services for children and young people. And this is part of our Escape project, and supporting children and young people to come to terms with domestic abuse, and to help them manage their emotions. So for the secondary school work, we look at relationships. We look at healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. And it's about identifying those behaviours that we see in unhealthy relationships, and how things can start quite subtle initially, and then they build up and build up. So yeah, really important work, really important that we get that information to the young people to try and prevent this happening, and for them to be more aware of those red flags.
And what kind of techniques and tools do you use presenting to the children?
So a lot of it is obviously us talking, but then we use song lyrics, and we also use videos which show young people, because obviously they're more relatable to people of their own age, to get the information across to them.
I love this work, don't you?
I do.
I mean, I've been with Year 10s these last couple of weeks, and I've had some humdinger of questions that they've asked me, because we're doing specific work around consent. And yeah,
always an interesting.
It's very, very interesting. I've had a lot of boys, wanting to talk about consent. I think sometimes there is a bit of confusion around consent, and they've asked me questions like, what if I'm really drunk and she's really drunk and we have sex? Is that consensual? If there's drugs involved, is that consensual?
That's it. What you think should be a really easy, straightforward topic can be quite complex.
Yes.
Because there's all these other elements that can be thrown into it.
Yeah. So it's really, really interesting work. We've had some great discussions around the likes of Andrew Tate.
Oh.
Boo. Just my opinion. What's been really interesting is that we do, when we go into schools, we put some quotes up, don't we?
We do.
And it's some quotes about women. And there's 6 quotes, and one of them is like, men have the right to cheat on women. Women should do exactly what the men wants them to. Women deserve to be raped. And we put these quotes up, and we say to the young people, who has said this?
Now, when I first saw these quotes, I thought they'd come from multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
And when, Mandy, you made up this initial presentation, didn't you? And you said, no, it's one person who said all these. I was just blown away, because I can't believe one person could come out with all these statements. Yeah. It's just scary.
So that one person was Andrew Tate, who is, as we all know, is an influencer. A lot of young boys look up to him because he has money, he has cars, but we also know that he is a convicted sex offender and has these awful misogynistic views about women that that's not even my opinion, that's fact. It's out there.
Were influenced by him and what he was saying.
Yeah.
I know one of the discussions that we had this morning when I was in a school was that you sometimes need to take a step back and actually think about the words that they're using and what they're actually saying, and whether you actually think and agree with them.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the time they get sucked in. There's a lot of peer pressure, and it's really difficult to step back and maybe be that odd one and go, well, actually, I don't think that's right.
I don't agree with that. And we're saying to young boys, well, how would you feel if he was talking about your mum or your sister, and he was saying these awful things that women deserve to be raped? And it's really difficult for young people, because when I was young, we didn't have phones. No. We didn't. There wasn't social media.
That's it.
The stuff.
Social media and even technology as a whole is massive now and has such a big role to play within society.
Yeah.
And it's a scary world.
It is really, really scary for young people. But I think the work we do is at least, the goal of it is that we're generating discussion.
Yes.
That we're saying, let's just think about, don't assume that what you're hearing is right. Don't assume that this is the role of a boy and a girl, because actually you can challenge that. And you can say, like you say, I don't agree with what you're saying.
And it takes a lot of confidence and inner strength to do that. and it can be really hard to go against the grain almost.
Yeah. So, yeah, lots and lots of works in schools. We're inundated with work in schools at the moment, aren't we? Which is really, really, really nice. So the question of the day is, what shall I run the Great Eastern Run dressed as? Please do call 01733 602 133. Text on 07444. No, don't text on that number. Text on this number, 07411 91062, or please comment on our Facebook, YouTube, X or Twitch.
I've still got you in one of those big blow-up dinosaur outfits.
Okay.
Thinking for the Great Eastern Run. Don't ask me why a dinosaur. I think it's just because I've seen a few of them.
I'm not. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm open. I'm open. Whatever's gonna. If there's anyone out there that will be like, yeah, I'll give £500 if you dress up as.
Oh, now that's
something.
a good idea.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that.
If only I had £500.
Me too. Me too. Okay, so we've kind of got into this subject talking about our work on schools, but we are going to look at women's rights and like the development of them,
and how they've changed
over the years,
and how there's still some work to do in some areas.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
Okay, go with your first fact.
So our first fact is that prior to 1870, which is quite a long while ago now, once a woman married, all of her possessions were her husband's. So everything that she owned was then his. So she basically owned nothing once she got married. Your face says it all, Mandy. I mean, can you imagine getting married and not actually owning anything? Whether that be like, I'm thinking family jewellery. I don't know why that's popped into my head.
Yeah.
But things that you've
been given or
inherited
are important
and
to
have
you.
huge sentimental value to you, you no longer own. And I suppose then, I suppose divorce wasn't really a thing in those days, but I assume it still happened to a point. You didn't get to keep that necessarily.
No. It's a bit like slavery.
Yes.
Like you actually own the person.
Yeah. And everything
that comes with
comes with them.
Mm.
Yeah. Right, let's move on to voting, because that's the next thing on my list. So women were not allowed to vote until 1918, which you know is a common thing. But interestingly, in 1918, they won the vote, but actually only 2/3 of women met the criteria to vote. So it wasn't just a blanket, yes, you can now vote. You had to be over 30 and you had to have certain qualifications.
Right, I love this because everyone assumed 1918 was like, you know, women get the vote, woohoo, woohoo, we've got the vote. We should have had the vote, but we've got the vote. But what I didn't know was that there was
So there was only 2/3 of women that actually qualified to vote at that point. Because you had to be over 30 and you had to have certain qualifications. Later these were abolished, but other restrictions. So any man over 21 could vote.
Okay.
Because it was 21 then, not
right.
18. And it was only in 1928 that the terms that you could vote on became the same. So another 10 years later.
So it was kind of like people were saying, okay, let's let these women vote.
Yeah.
But let's just keep an eye on them because if they're young, they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. Yeah, they have to be over 30 to obviously know what's going on.
And then if they don't have certain qualifications, they obviously don't know what they're doing either.
Yeah. So I think it was more to do with property and what property they perhaps owned. So maybe I'm thinking a married woman, I don't know. It just sounded really bizarre to me.
That is so interesting, isn't it? Because everyone just assumed we got the vote and we got the vote, but we didn't.
No.
Like a little bit of us got the vote.
So it was still restricted. until 10 years later when it was actually put onto equal terms with men.
Wow.
Do you want to know something else interesting?
Go on.
Until 1944, so a few years after that, when a woman got married, if she was a teacher, they were sacked.
Come on.
Yeah, if a female teacher got married prior to 1944, they were sacked. They were deemed not able to do that job for whatever reason.
So if we look at the time here, 1944, we're Second World War territory, aren't we,
Yes.
around 1944?
Yes.
There are women who, kept us together
Yeah.
during the Second World War, who were here volunteering, doing as much as the men were doing. Fair enough, they might not have been on the front lines, but
Yes.
they were doing everything.
They were doing a lot of other jobs behind the scenes.
So they were defending our country in 1944, but if you were a teacher and you got married, you got fired.
Yeah.
Is there any
I don't know what
thinking behind
I
that?
don't know what the reason is behind it. I'll perhaps need to look that up. But yeah, I don't know what the reason is behind that. But for some reason, when they got married, they lost their job.
This is blowing my mind, Sue.
Obscure facts come out.
Okay.
It's these sort of things that obviously we never knew about.
No.
And they do, in this day and age, it just blows your mind, doesn't it?
And I tell you what, though, if we were talking earlier about going into schools and Andrew Tate and boys and girls viewpoints. If you look at the history of women who are oppressed, all this is about oppression,
Yes.
isn't it? You kind of think, no wonder these boys are misogynistic and
That's it.
and think that
they're better than
Yeah.
women. And
because there's a
have the
massive
power over
history
them.
of it, isn't there?
that's it.
Oh, okay, go for your next one.
This is going to be a touchy subject. I know.
Okay.
So it was illegal for women to have an abortion unless she was at risk of dying until 1967.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is it's a challenging subject. It's
It
a
is.
tricky subject to talk about because we all have our individual views
Yeah.
on abortion, whether or not it's right, it's wrong, it fits into our belief systems, our religious beliefs maybe. We all have opinions. I think my where I stand is that I think everyone has the choice to do what they want to do with their own bodies.
Yes.
And facts like this really upset me because especially when you have children that are conceived in violent situations. So, for example, if a woman has been raped or in an abusive situation, did not want for that to happen, as a result of that becomes pregnant, having no choice over that, I think is absolutely awful.
It is. And prior to 1945, abortion was just blanket illegal. So regardless of whether you risked dying for whatever reason during pregnancy, prior to that, it was just a blanket, no, abortion is illegal. If you're pregnant, you're having that child. And like I say, between 1945 and 1967, it was then only allowed if the mother's life was at risk.
Wow.
Yeah. But interestingly, over the last 30 years, more than 60 countries and territories have liberalised. I can't say the word. Liberalised
I can't
their
say it.
abortion laws. And only 4 countries have rolled back legal abortion. So the USA, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Poland have all taken back the right to abortion.
So in
Once
the USA,
they made it legal.
they made it legal. Yeah.
And then they've taken
And then they've taken it back. So
in certain areas.
Yeah, I think in the USA, it's like some states,
Yes.
abortion is legal and some states it isn't legal.
Yeah. And in some countries, it's still only illegal if it can preserve the life of the mother,
Right, okay.
and in others it is still completely illegal. For example, Malta,
Yeah.
which really surprised me, is the only European Union member that prohibits the procedure entirely.
Really?
Yeah.
Malta?
Yeah. If my research is correct.
Okay.
So yeah, Malta is the only European Union member that prohibits the procedure entirely.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's still got a long way to go, in my viewpoint.
In my viewpoint
Because
too.
like you, I believe that a woman should have that choice.
Yes.
Because there are circumstances
Yeah.
that might mean that you don't want to carry that child through.
We are going to an ad break in a minute, but join us after the break where we're going to be looking at more just crazy women's rights that we've found.
Craving authentic Desi flavors? Look no further than Desi Restaurant. From midday until 1 in the morning, enjoy our homemade specialties that will transport your taste buds. Indulge in tantalizing papri chaat and savor the rich Chersi Kadahi. Treat your friends to our fresh 1 kilogram Chersi lamb handi. Plus, get 2 12-inch pizzas for $11.95. Located at 298 Lincoln Road, we deliver from lunchtime until 1 a.m. Call 01733 555 795 now to order and experience Desi Restaurant's flavors.
Are you a savvy shopper searching for the best food deals? Look no further. Adams Cash and Carry can help you save big. We're not just a food wholesaler for takeaways and restaurants. We also welcome household customers at our warehouse in Westwood, Peterborough. Visit our website and enjoy wholesale prices on everything from drinks to flour, rice to burgers and much more. To shop, go online and collect in store. Visit adamscashandcarry.co.uk today to start your savings spree.
Craving a heavenly escape in the heart of Peterborough? Heavenly Desserts is the perfect place to relax with friends, unwind with family, or for casual meetings with colleagues. You can now indulge in our delicious brunch menu with mouth-watering savoury delights, served from 11 a.m. every day. Visit us today at Cowgate, Peterborough, the go-to spot for good times and great company. Where else but Heavenly's? Party packages available for birthdays and other celebrations. Also available to order through Just Eat, Deliveroo and Uber Eats.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
2020 World Buffet is inspired by the best foods from around the world. See our teppanyaki chefs grill your food to order, or choose delicious Indian, Italian, Chinese, Mexican dishes and British favourites, all halal. 2020 World Buffet offers you unlimited food at a set price. Open 7 days for lunch and dinner. Catering, wedding and party services available too. Call 01733 566 320 or visit 2020buffet.co.uk. 2020 World Buffet, 35 New Road, Peterborough, PE1 1FJ.
City & Co Tax Specialists. A modern, refreshing and straightforward solution to your accounting and tax needs. We are flexible, clear and dynamic. Are you tired of your current accountant not giving you the right advice, not giving you time, not giving you business solutions? City & Co Tax Specialists have helped many businesses build a better structure to minimise commercial risks and become more tax efficient. There is no substitute for a well-rounded specialist accountant and tax advisor. Our consultants will work with you to minimise your tax exposure through tax planning. Whether you are looking within the UK or offshore tax planning, we can help. We offer so much more than your average accountant, and that's what stands us apart. Call us on 01733 777782. Your partners in success.
This is Salam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio. Broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Keep Women Talking, a show from Peterborough Women's Aid. My name is Mandy, and I'm joined by my co-host Sue. Good afternoon, Sue.
Good afternoon.
We're looking at women's rights this afternoon, and we've had some facts which have just, I've nearly fallen off my chair. But what we're also doing, we have our question of the week, and we are asking you, what shall I dress up as for the Great Eastern Run? So anything, we're trying to raise as much cash as we can. Call us on 01733 602 133. Text us on 074 91062 or comment on our Facebook, YouTube, X or Twitch. I am just going to mention, because we're talking about women's rights, but we have been talking about lots of stuff really to do with domestic abuse and what we do at PWA. So I do want to just shout out our advice line if anyone does need support. Our number is 01733 894 964. So, Sue, give me another fact about women's rights.
Let's do one that sort of links in with Peterborough Women's Aid. So, women who were subjected to violence and abuse had nowhere to go until the first refuge opened in 1972.
Well, I have seen said refuge because I used to work in Hounslow, and the first women's refuge in 1972 was in Hounslow, and it was opened by a group of volunteers, women who had been in similar situations, and there was nowhere to go. And then about 3 years later, I think it was got some funding through the Job Centre of all places, I think. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that...
Yeah, there was nothing.
And this is my thing, like the fact that women who had been subject to abuse had to then open a refuge because no one else was.
No. And that sort of links in with our 50 years as well, because Peterborough Women's Aid started in 1975.
We did.
Again, by volunteers. And they opened their refuge, I think, in about 1978, 1979. And like you say, I think that was funded at that point. But for it to be open so late in terms of the years, is quite scary.
It is scary.
There's no support, nowhere for these women to go. They were stuck very often in these abusive relationships.
Yeah. And, if you're a teacher, you would have got fired and whatever.
That's true.
It does kind of shout out about, like, if you look at what we're doing, we're a charity, we are all, we employ only women, we're still battling for funding, we're still battling to keep our refuges open, to support as many victims as we can. So when you look back, the first refuge opened in 1972 by women who were survivors, who were volunteers. Speed, 50 years on, nothing really much has changed, does it? We're still out there battling to help as many people as we can.
It's still a taboo subject for a lot of people, and people find it really hard to reach out for that support. It's a number of different reasons, as we know. Yeah.
Let's just hope in the next 50 years things really, really do improve, because you look back and you think, well, this is... I don't know.
It's not mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
It's still carrying on. And organisations like ourselves are still in such great demand. And the numbers of women that we're supporting are going up year on year.
Yeah.
No. Let's look at something else. So around that same time, in 1974, that was the year that the contraceptive pill became available on the NHS. Prior to that, women had no way whatsoever of controlling their fertility.
Wow. So that seems like, I was born in 77. I don't feel that, I don't feel that old. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like an antique yet. But that feels not so long ago.
It does, doesn't it?
But you couldn't have contraception.
That women obviously had the choice of going on the pill and having some control over their fertility.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't
It
it? when you
is,
think
yeah.
back? And something going back to the domestic violence and the refuge opening in 1972, it wasn't until 1977 that they had any sort of legal protection through the civil courts. So again, it wasn't even acknowledged that domestic abuse existed in the world.
Because we know now, through the civil courts, you can get a variety of orders. You can get a non-molestation order, prohibited steps order, occupation order. They're all through the civil courts. But so what we're saying is, like 47 years ago, there was nothing.
Yeah, nothing. No legal protection whatsoever for victims of domestic abuse.
And that, again, goes back to this lack of it being taboo and swept under the carpet, that there was nothing, even if a woman did flee, there was no legal protection for her.
No, nothing whatsoever. And you mentioned there, Mandy, some of the orders that can come into place. So the non-molestation order is like the word's gone out of my head.
Restrictions.
Yeah. So that may be around contact or being in the same vicinity as someone. The prohibited steps order stops someone taking children, for example, overseas. And I think we're going to discuss some of those in a later programme.
We are. We're going to go through all the
detail.
legal alternatives for victims of abuse, so they know what their rights are and how they can protect themselves.
Yeah. So here's one for you, Mandy. So you and I were both young children in 1982. So until 1982, it was legal for bars and pubs to refuse to serve women.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 1982,
Yeah.
literally for me, does not feel that long ago.
Well, that's what
we
I was
would have been
thinking.
young, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we were both young children. But yeah, bars and pubs could refuse to serve a person based on the fact they were a woman.
Right, okay, let's try and get our heads around the thinking behind that. Is it because they didn't like women consuming alcohol? That it wasn't ladylike?
I suspect it was around those sort of ideas. I don't know. But that would be my thinking, is that it was something along the lines of women shouldn't drink, shouldn't be inebriated, can't control their drink perhaps.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because
Crazy.
there were, now I don't know this, I'm making this up a little bit, but there were, back in the day that you had working men's clubs,
Yes.
didn't you? And they were basically, what I remember of them, a lot of men who were manual workers, and then they would all go for a kind of a beer after work or at the weekends, but they were pretty much exclusively for men. And then you also had certain other clubs which were exclusively for men, like golf clubs.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, now we will need to clarify this with a bit of Googling, but I think there is still a golf club, a famous golf club, and I want to say St Andrews, but I'm not 100% sure, that a certain area of it you cannot go into if you're a woman.
female.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I've got that in my head because I remember reading it going, oh. But there are also certain other clubs which women still can't go into.
Yeah.
And this is... I
think we've come so far, haven't we, that you almost don't expect these things to exist anymore.
No,
But
you
they
don't.
do.
You don't.
But they do.
I mean, I just want to say, if my mum went into a pub in 1982 and asked for a glass of wine and they said no, I don't know what would have happened.
It was also legal for women to be paid less than men for the same work until 1985. So around that same sort of time, obviously things started to improve again. They were obviously making steps to make things more equal.
So do the one at the bottom at the same time, because this is something that I get very angry about.
So the current average pay gap between men and women is 15%. So for every £1 a man is paid, women are only paid 85p.
Okay, right.
Have I triggered something?
Honestly, so women are doing the exact same job,
Yeah.
and the man gets paid £1 for that exact same job, and a woman gets paid 85p for that exact same job, just because she's a woman.
I don't even know how that happens. I assume that comes from historical
It comes from
reasons. I don't know.
organisations just being pure sexist. In my head,
Yeah.
I think it comes from people's views about women going to work. Oh, well, they're going to have a career break because they're going to have children, or women aren't fully committed, or if the child's off school sick, it's going to be the woman that looks after that child. Women have women's issues, health issues all of the time. All of these excuses that people have in their head to say, oh, we shouldn't pay women as much as we pay men.
I mean, that should not happen now.
And
it should not be taking place.
It shouldn't.
For exactly the same job, men should not be paid more than a woman.
And it's like this whole pension thing, isn't it? Well, you didn't pay into your pension for so long because you had a child. You chose to have a child, right?
Chose to have a child.
I'm like, well, yes, because I'm a woman and my partner physically can't have a child. So what are we supposed to do if we want children? There needs to be an acknowledgement that, yes, women have children. Because no one else can.
Can't physically do it.
But then you're penalised because you're because you're the only one that can have a child, and then it ruins your national insurance contributions, and that leads onto your pension, and blah 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 blah, and then it all feeds into this belief that women aren't as important as men in the workplace. Or incapable. So in that case, they're going to pay us 85p and pay the guy £1.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
It's astonishing. And it was legal until 1985. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Shall I throw another one out there?
Yes, please.
I cannot get my head around this, because this was the case until 1991, which seems like just yesterday to me.
It does.
It's not, but it seems like just yesterday. Men could legally rape their wives until 1991, when marital rape became illegal.
That is...
It's incredible, isn't it? It wouldn't even occur to you.
No. So, and the thing, the wording of this is really interesting, isn't it? Men can legally rape their wives until 1991. So the wording of that near enough insinuates it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if your wife doesn't want to have sex, you can rape her. Yeah. It's fine.
Because I think it comes down to that old thing that once you were married, that man owned you. Well, he owned your possessions until not 1870. He owned everything about you. And that was his right, almost, isn't it? And there's still that thinking, I think, in some parts of society today, where it's still okay for a man to rape his wife because he believes that's his right. And that comes back to the consent that we were talking about earlier.
Yep. And you can't believe that only changed in 1991.
No. It's not that long ago.
It's not. It really doesn't feel that long ago. Wow.
That's it.
If what we're talking about is affecting you, we're talking about women's rights, but we're also kind of touching on domestic abuse, please do call the PWA helpline on 01733 894 964. We're also asking you, what should I dress up as for the Great Eastern Run this year? So do text us on 074 119 1062 or comment on our Facebook, YouTube, X or Twitch. So we're talking about women's rights. Sue is literally blowing my mind with some of this stuff. We were talking about rape. Until 1991, men could legally rape their wives. That was fine. give me something else. So give me another one.
Okay. Here's more of a light-hearted one.
Okay.
So, the England women's cricket team were not allowed to play in trousers until 1997.
What did they play in then?
I don't know what they wore beforehand.
I've got visions of those. Oh my goodness.
I'm
Do you
thinking
remember?
almost like a tennis skirt, perhaps.
Do you
sort of
remember
thing.
when we were at school and we had to wear these like shorts that were like knicker shorts?
Yes. It was like a big pair of...
It was a big pair of
giant
pants,
pants,
wasn't it?
basically.
Like mine were like royal blue, and then you had to wear them. And then if you were lucky, you could put a netball skirt
Yes.
over them or something.
Yeah.
But I absolutely hated that, especially to go into detail, like when you had your period,
Yeah.
that you had to wear these massive, horrible pants that everyone could see everything,
Yeah.
and it was just awful, absolutely awful.
Yeah. It's just
Um,
completely undignified, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I wonder what the women's cricket team played in. I'm assuming it was skirts and shorts underneath
I assume so, yeah.
type thing.
Yeah. And that was until 1997.
So why would you not be allowed to play in trousers? Because
Well,
there's
no reason, is there?
There's
It
no
doesn't affect
reason.
the way you play or anything like that.
No, and there's an awful lot of bending down and picking up in cricket, isn't there?
Yes.
I wouldn't want to be wearing a pair of pants and a skirt.
No. No. Let's look at something else.
Yeah.
So this one really surprised me. So have you heard of Amnesty International?
Yes, so they're kind of human rights, that kind of
Huge
thing.
human rights
Yep.
organisation. They've been around since 1960. Their aim is to protect people, defend their rights to freedom and to keep people's dignity, along those sort of lines. So Amnesty International did not consider violence against women a human rights violation until, when do you think?
Well, I'm hoping it was like the 40s or something. I don't know. Whenever
They
they...
were set up in 1960.
Okay, like 70s.
2005. So they did not consider violence against women a human rights violation until 2005.
So what was it then?
Obviously didn't come under human rights in their opinion.
Oh my goodness. So what...
For such a massive organisation that's obviously worldwide and supports so many people and protects so many people's rights, for that to be the case, that didn't come in until 2005, is terrifying.
So were Amnesty saying that violence against women and girls was okay until 2005?
I don't think they were necessarily saying that. I think whether it had just been left and ignored until maybe someone raised it at some point and they went, hold on a minute, surely we need to consider this and it is against somebody's human rights.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't consider it a human rights violation until 2005.
Wow. I mean, it really does feed into all of this stuff we're talking about, doesn't it? About the roles of men and women and how men are perceived and how women are perceived. And the background to this it's shocking, isn't it? And I really wonder if we tried to do this exercise and we changed the title. At the moment, we're calling it a women's rights exercise. If we changed it to men's rights exercise, I don't reckon we get anything on it.
There wouldn't be a whole lot.
Is there anything, right, where, I'm opening myself up a bit here, but where women's rights are better than men's rights? Can you think of anything?
I'm struggling. Not off the top of my head, no.
I can't either. And I'm really thinking.
And I think that comes from history, where the man has always had that power and that control.
Yeah. Wow. This could
Scary
be
world, isn't
next week's question. People can ponder on it.
Yeah.
Um,
And this isn't just the UK that we're talking about either. There's 38 countries where marital rape is not illegal still.
No.
38 countries across the world.
Give me some examples.
I haven't got examples.
Oh, fine.
That was just a straightforward fact.
Okay.
And that. But yeah. But even to think that that's still okay in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
No. Let's have a look at something else. In Saudi Arabia, women can't leave the country without a man's permission. And I don't know whether this is still the case. I think it maybe is in parts, is that they must wear a full veil in public. Someone may be able to correct me on that, whether that's still the case or not. But yeah, women can't leave the country without a man's permission.
So this is interesting because what we're going into the world of women's rights compared to culture and religious beliefs.
Yeah.
And we are obviously we're white British women.
Yes.
So we don't know about, for example, wearing the hijab, covering up, putting a scarf on, all of that kind of stuff, because we don't do that. And I think sometimes, Sue, shout me down if you think I'm wrong, but I think sometimes as white people, we kind of say, well, women shouldn't have to do that. They shouldn't have to wear a scarf. They shouldn't have to wear the hijab, But actually, I think sometimes there's a real lack of understanding and naivety that a lot of women who do choose to cover up.
And I think that's the word, that actually women, there's a lot of women out there that do make that choice for religious or cultural purposes.
Yeah, and I don't think that we are here to judge that, are we? No. I think that, like you say, a lot of women choose to cover up, and it might be for their own, because they want to, or it might be that they feel that that's what is part of their marriage.
Yes.
And that is what it is.
And part of their religious
yes.
beliefs.
Yeah, definitely.
There's 196 countries in the world.
That in itself is an interesting fact.
There we go. Only 20 have a woman leader.
Oh.
And that's the highest number there's ever been. So 196 countries in the world and 20 have a female leader.
That's because she doesn't get paid enough, because she only gets 85p compared to the pound. Okay, give me a women leader, Sue.
Oh, I'm terrible.
I've done it now, haven't I?
Like that. There was the New Zealand Prime Minister.
I was going to say New Zealand. And this is another thing. So I might be getting my countries wrong, but you'll go with me. The French Prime Minister, this was going back a while, she was pregnant and she had a baby and she came back to work within 2 days. Now, this might not have been French, but bear with me, this happened.
So within Europe?
I think it was within Europe. She had a baby. She came back to work within 2 days and got absolutely ridiculed by the press.
I could believe it.
Saying, why isn't she looking after her child? Why is she back at work? She's just had the baby 2 days ago. So you can't win.
No. And as Prime Minister of that
country,
heck of a responsibility.
Exactly. So if she'd have taken time off, they would have said she's not fit to be Prime Minister and lead this country because she's not here because she's had a baby. And the fact that she went straight back to work when the baby was 2 days old got ridiculed because she wasn't being a good mum.
Yeah. And the first ever female Prime Minister was elected in 1979, which I assume was probably Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, say what you want about Margaret Thatcher. I don't think we're going to go down that road, are we?
No. So I'm just trying to read through some of these extra ones that we were talking about. There's 20 countries in the world where it's not illegal for a man to assault his wife. So we've talked about rape within marriage.
Yeah.
But in 20 countries, it's still not illegal for a man to assault his wife. So that's physically assault, I would assume.
Wow.
I mean, I can't get my head around that.
No.
That it's okay for anyone to physically and violently assault someone else.
No.
Regardless of the circumstances.
And the word there is wife, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wife. Because if it was like, they're not saying you can't assault people,
The
but they're
person you're
saying
meant to love and be in a mutually respectful relationship.
you can't assault your wife.
Yeah.
My word.
Why would you want to?
I want to read out this one before we go, because this is just sums it all up, I think. Women perform 66% of the world's work. They receive only 11% of the world's income and own only 1% of the world's land.
That's incredible statistics, isn't it?
It's just crazy. So we're nearly at the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening. We've been talking about women's rights. There's been some shockers, but we're back in 2 weeks' time. We might know what I'm running as for the Great Eastern, but in the meantime, take